Tuesday brings with it the start of these semi-finals in the Euros, and it is the big one first up between Spain and France. And there's been a lot of talk about Kylian Mbappe's status after he had to come off in that quarter-final against Portugal. Well, here is what Didier Deschamps has had to say about it all. He said, "Don't you think he's already made enough history with what he's done so far? He wants to make even more history. During the preparation, he had a little back problem too, but Kylian is here. Even if he's not 100%, I know very well that for the opponent, knowing he's playing makes them think and forces them to adapt." Let's welcome in Julien Laurens and Sid Lowe as well. We will start with you, Jules. Should Deschamps start Mbappe in this semi-final against Spain?
I think he will start him, but we can debate on whether he should start him or not, because it's true, and Deschamps is right. He's not 100% physically. He had that back problem. He had a knee issue. He's got obviously the mask and the broken nose, which I think has hindered him so far in this tournament. There's no doubt. He hates wearing the mask. He says he doesn't see the ball properly, doesn't see the game properly. Whether it's an excuse or not, it doesn't matter so much. The fact is he's not 100%, he's not fully fit, and he hasn't been good at all. However, it's still Kylian Mbappe, and you still really need him, especially if it turns out that on Tuesday he actually has a good game. So there's not even a debate, I think, in Deschamps' mind that he will start tomorrow.
Where do you stand on it, Macca? Because we've been talking throughout this tournament about players not quite at 100% for whatever reason it might be, injury, whether they're out of form. At what point does it impact the team? Or is it the case, this is a superstar, we have to play in whatever percentage he's
I think there's only certain people in certain teams that are so-called superstars and are effectively bigger than the team, and Kylian's one of them. Cristiano's another, Lionel Messi's another, regardless of all their form, and all three of their form in the respective competitions has been really poor in these tournaments, but Kylian will play if he wants to play. It will be his decision and his decision alone, and not Didier Deschamps. But his form hasn't been good enough. I don't know whether he can. We discussed it the other day. I don't know whether he can play with a different type of mask on, maybe a perspex mask, which is clear. Whether he can play with just some sort of bandage over his nose so he can see. But he's clearly being inhibited by this mask or by his respiratory problems. So we don't know the full story, but what you'd have to say is he will have to perform and be at his utmost best if he's going to beat this Spanish team, because they are the standout side of the tournament.
Absolutely. Jules, is there any talk on that, what he will do, if there's anything he can do to help him in the mask situation?
Well, this is his fifth mask that he's had, the one that he's wearing now, the kind of Batman-esque mask. I don't think there's another one coming. Certainly not now. For the start of the season, if he still needs to wear it, maybe. But for now, it will be the same one that we saw in the Belgium game and obviously in the Portugal game as well.
What would you do, Stevie? Because Frank said here the other day that for the best of everybody, he shouldn't play. As a manager, what would you do?
I think he plays. You know, I think it's important what Deschamps says about the opposition, if they see Mbappe's playing. I don't think if you went and asked the opposition, do you want Mbappe to play or not? Every single one of them would say, well, no. I don't care, I don't mask or not, I don't want him playing. So I would start him 100% and see what he produces. And if he doesn't produce anything, then you can take him off. But when you've got a guy who's capable of producing something from nothing, even with a mask on, then you've got to start him. And if it's not going well, and it smells a bit like what's happened previously, then guess what? You can take him off.
Has it been a big topic of conversation, Sid, among the Spanish media, Mbappe's participation in this game?
Yeah, of course it has. I mean, obviously the focus from Spain's point of view is Spain themselves, but Mbappe is the big, the key issue in terms of looking at France. In fact, so much so that there's been a discussion about what Spain should do about Mbappe, regardless of the mask, regardless of his form. Of course, Spain are without Dani Carvajal, and Dani Carvajal is the player that would have been one-on-one against Mbappe. And there has been that discussion about whether they should change the way that they play, or at least change the personnel to deal with him, because people look at this and they think, OK, so it's Jesus Navas. Jesus Navas is 38. He's quick, or he was quick once, but he's not as quick as Mbappe. So there was even a suggestion that maybe Cucurella change his size to try and take Mbappe on one-on-one. Luis de la Fuente said that won't happen. He said he won't put a left back at right back. He's just not going to do that. But yeah, absolutely, Mbappe is the focal point from a Spanish point of view as well as from a French one.
You're nodding along there, Macca.
Yeah, that was always the concern when Danny Carvajal is a warrior. He's a proper right-back, isn't he? If he needs to defend, he can defend. He's played against Kylian on a number of occasions, knows how he plays. Jesus Navas is completely different, as Sid rightly said. And also it looks as if Nacho will come in, so that side of the pitch automatically looks a little bit weaker. But yet again, Kylian needs to be Kylian, doesn't he? They've got Dembele on one side if he plays. They've got Griezmann. There's talk about Griezmann stepping out and Dembele will play. They've got Barcola, who's quick and he's very direct. He could come on. But, you know, as we said before, if Kylian wants to play, if Kylian feels it's fine, Kylian plays. But he has to deliver sooner rather than later. It's all right saying what he did when he scored a hat-trick in the final a couple of years ago, but they lost. It's all right saying what he's done previous. Everybody talks about now, don't they? And Kylian needs to produce because he hasn't had a great tournament.
So who is starting for France then, Jules? Obviously, if he does start, what is going on with Griezmann? Will he be dropped?
Yeah, I think this is the most likely scenario now. Dembele coming on against Portugal had a big impact on the game when he replaced Griezmann after the 67th minute. Did really well. The end product is obviously always debatable, but certainly what he brought with the ball was great. So Dembele will be there, I think. And then Kylian on the left-hand side, because I think the target will be Jesus Navas and Nacho, like Macca just said. And then Thuram or Koulibaly, more likely Thuram, certainly after training tonight behind closed door. This was the idea for Deschamps. And Rabiot coming back in midfield, no Griezmann. Deschamps tried everything in this tournament for Griezmann. Different formations, different positions, wide, centrally, deeper, higher up, everything. And nothing has worked. And I think he gets to a point where Deschamps says, listen, I love you so much, Griezmann. Griezmann owes everything internationally to Deschamps, pretty much. But there's a moment where it's just not working out. So I wouldn't be surprised if Griezmann starts on the bench tomorrow. And
Rabiot comes in for whom, Jules? Camavinga?
For Camavinga, probably Mago. Yeah, Macca. Oh. And I know this is a good debate to have, but they've had the issues before, but it's very much like a father and son kind of relationship. Yeah. And he likes his solidity, the physicality, the brains that he has. And for Eduardo, he's still quite young, certainly much younger than Rabiot. And I think as well as he did against Portugal, with all that energy, as you know, because we see him every weekend on ESPN for Real Madrid, he prefers the Rabiot and how safe, maybe safer slightly Rabiot is compared to Camavinga.
You know, you've got to think, there's a reason why France have won these tournaments, World Cups and Europeans, because of the manager. You know, we've been talking all week about Southgate, maybe not dropping Kane just because he doesn't feel he can drop him. We've been talking about Roberto Martinez with Ronaldo. If there's one thing that you know, Deschamps is going to pick the team he thinks is going to win, regardless of the name on the back of the jersey. That's why they've won tournaments previously.
When it comes to Dembele, if he is on his day, nobody wants to be coming up against him, do they?
No, but unfortunately, his day it doesn't come often enough, does he, for the paying public? We know how exciting he can be. We know when he flashes a goal in the back of the net, how great that goal normally is. It's just that it's normally followed by 17 attempts over the bar or wide or frustration after frustration. We know he cuts in on his left and he's very exciting, but it's the final ball, it's the end product, and it's always been the case. It got glossed over slightly because of his big money move to Barca, and everybody presumed he was the finished article then. But he hasn't been. He wasn't at Barca. He's not at PSG, and he hasn't been for the French national team. But somebody's there to make themselves heroes. Spain are the big favourites going into this game, even though they've got a couple of people missing. So if Dembele does become the match winner, if Thuram, who's had a poor tournament, if he becomes the match winner, it's fine. They'll be strong at the back, as they have been. If Rabiot comes in alongside Kante, they'll be strong in the middle. But it's just whether they can find the goals, because Spain will dominate possession.
Yeah, we'll get to the favourites tag in a minute when it does come to Spain, as you mentioned, Macca, Sid. But who would the Spanish national team be more fearful of, Dembele or Griezmann?
That's a really difficult question to answer, to be honest. I think the way that Griezmann's playing, I think they would be less concerned about him in terms of the fact that he's not at the best of his form. Of course, he doesn't have the physicality, the athleticism, the speed that they would be concerned about. And in theory, at least, Dembele has all of those things. But of course, the Spanish know better than anyone exactly what Steve's just been talking about. That idea that you get a Dembele and you say, OK, which Dembele's turning up? And the amazing thing about Dembele is he can be both brilliant and absolutely awful. Not just in the same game, but in the same move sometimes. can run up the wing and you think, here it is, it's coming, and then it doesn't happen. And so I think they would be concerned about the speed. I think this is a Spanish team that's quite tired. I think it's a Spanish team that knows it doesn't have the natural pace that France has got. And so I think they'd be concerned about that. But there's a huge amount of respect for what Griezmann gives France, for his capacity to kind of interpret the game, to understand the game. But yeah, I must admit, I don't think the Spanish want two wingers running at them really, really quickly. Because the other thing, of course, it does, if Dembélé plays, is it means Spain can't think, well, it's okay, we double up on Mbappe. Because if you double up on someone else somewhere is free.
Yeah, it's interesting, actually, as you mentioned, some of the maybe shortcomings that the Spanish are seeing in themselves here, Sid, and being realistic in certain areas, because they are favourites coming into this game. We're talking a lot about France here. Is that the feeling in Spain, that they are the favourites going into this clash? What are the fans thinking?
Yeah, I mean, look, the truth is, I think that the Spanish look at the way that they've played and look at the way that other teams have played, and that includes France, by the way, and it includes England as well, and they think, yeah, we have been the best team at this tournament. But the belief that you've been the best team at the tournament doesn't necessarily mean that you believe you will keep on winning. And I think there is an awareness that the kind of qualities that France have, the way that France play, may well make life difficult for them. Spain have played different types of teams so far, but I don't think they've quite yet seen a team like France. And it's curious, isn't it, watching France? Because to be honest, you watch them and think they're not all that good. And in a way, what frightens you is what you think they can do rather than what they have done. But at the same time, this is a very physical team. It's a very difficult team to overcome. And in theory, at least, it's a team that can run counter-attacks on you. Now, obviously, that depends on Mbappe's fitness and how quick he is. But I do think the Spanish look at this and think, yeah, this is tough. This is tough, even though they haven't played well, even though we believe we have played the best football at the tournament so far.
One of the big reasons Spain are favourites right now is because of the form of those two wingers, Nico Williams and Lamine Yamal. You've been loving what you've seen from them.
Yes, I have, but again, as Sid rightly said, they're up against Theo Hernandez, who's had a really good tournament, and Jules Koundé, who's at times has struggled, but he's very experienced. You know, that defence of France hasn't been breached often at all. So, as much as I love the fact that these young boys in the Spanish team are very direct, are very positive, you know, want to attack, it will be a tougher game for them, won't it? Because Kante and Rabiot will sit, it won't be as open, and they won't be able to cut through as often, and it'll be interesting to see Lamine Yamal against Theo Hernandez, because he's been very aggressive and he wants to go forward, Theo Hernandez, and if he goes forward, the youngster's going to have to follow, because you don't want Theo Hernandez and Kylian Mbappe, you know, sort of doubling up on Jesus Navas. So it's going to be a tactical affair. It's going to be interesting to watch. I don't think it'll be as open as we've seen in the past with the Spanish teams, but it'll be a chess match in itself on who overcomes each other.
How do you defend these wingers, the Spanish wingers?
Numbers. Don't commit. Don't be too far off them. Don't be too tight. I mean, Theo Hernandez in particular will be getting himself in a position where all he's going to do is hold up Lamine Yamal. He'll just hold him up, because you can't commit or he's past you. And as I said, if you stand off him, then he'll either kill you with a pass or he'll get a strike. So, yeah, I'm with Micah. The two wingers are playing against two experienced guys who know what they're doing, and particularly Koundé on the other side will know exactly what he's up against. And I'm sure he'll be speaking about it, how to go about it, and again, he'll be doing the same thing. Hold them up until you get some more cover, and then
show them inside the pitch to where you've got more bodies, where your friends are. If Lamine Yamal's running at you, you just show him in there where I know another one of my mates is there and there's another one there. You just don't let him go round the side of you. Show him inside all the time, and Kante will be there or Rabiot will be there to help you out.
Easy peasy?
Easy peasy.
Well, in theory it is.
Yes.
Unfortunately, the practical is not always as
Absolutely not. But when it comes to predictions, let's take a look at what the team tonight are all going for. Everyone's going for Spain except for Stevie, who's going for France. But I do want to start with Jules here first, because I feel as though this is a bit of reverse psychology, Jules.
No. I think Spain are a better team. And it will be very much what we've all said. It will be attack v defense for most of that game. And I think if there's a team that can frustrate Spain, it would be this French team. And like Micah said, I think they've never really come up against a team like that. We have the best defense in the tournament for a reason. Saliba and Maignan have been outstanding, really. But I just do think that eventually I think Spain will find a way just score one goal. It won't be a pretty game to watch. I can tell you that right now, unless it's a very early goal. But I think Spain eventually will just drain a bit that French wall, if you want, and find a way to break them down.
Stevie, Nicol, France.
You can't back against them. You can't. And particularly the way this game's going to go. Spain are going to have the ball, and when Spain cough it up, Dembele, Mawani, Mbappe, the pace of them getting after that back four. So you have to go with France. And we were talking about earlier on, will Spain think they're favourites? Maybe the fans will think they're favourites. Anybody out with the Spanish FA, the players, the coaches, all the staff, don't think they're favourites. They know what they're up against. Regardless of how France have played, the Spanish players ain't going around going, you know what, these have been rubbish the last 4 games. We've got a great chance. They're rubbish. They can't score a goal. They're relying on own goals. That's not how they're thinking. They're thinking, right, OK, we know we're going to have it, but we better not cough it up in the wrong places. Because if we do, the ball's going to be in the back of the net, and then it's going to be twice as hard to break down a defence that's as good as anybody in the tournament.